There are many different prop houses here in LA. And if you ever get the chance to visit any of them, I really encourage that you do that because it's just so cool.
Welcome to There to Here, an educational podcast where industry professionals talk nuts and bolts and how they got from there to here. On today's show, Cory Maracle takes us behind the scenes of his role as prop master for the daytime talk show Home and Family. As this is a new podcast, we're really wanting feedback, so go to media.collabinc.org, fill out that feedback survey, and you'll be entered to win a $25 Amazon gift card. From Collab Inc., I'm Tanya Musgrave, and today I have Cory Maracle. He is the prop master for the lifestyle television talk show Home and Family, and it's filmed on the Universal Studios backlot in Los Angeles. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we've never had a prop master on the show before, really anybody from the art department. So how did you get from there to here?
Let's see, where do I begin? I, like many people, after film school, I kind of just had it in my mind that I wanted to be in LA and work in LA. So I packed up my car, came out here. I was out here for just a few months, not really having a whole lot of luck finding work. I didn't really know many people, so it was a bit tough, but fairly early on, I found myself living with Thomas Wentworth, who I believe you've had on your podcast previously, and another young gentleman, Ben Van Allen. Ben, at the time, was an assistant producer, I believe, at Home and Family. And after learning that I was just like searching everywhere I could for work, he was like, you should have let me know. Like, let me make some calls. Like, I know just the person. So he got in touch with the production manager there at Home and Family. Before long, they called me up, gave me a shot. I went in as a PA. I did as much as I could and the best way I could. And they liked me, so they kept me on. I was PAing there for probably the next 6 months. Towards the end of season 1, they kind of needed assistance in the art department. And so they would pull me over like every few days. I liked the job in the art department a lot. They liked working with me. And so at the start of season 2, they hired me into their department full time as a prop assist. I proceeded to do that for several years. Before that, I wasn't really sure like what area of this industry I wanted to work in. Mm-hmm. I kind of dabbled in a few different areas and nothing really resonated. But as soon as I was in art, I was like, oh wow, like this makes so much sense. Like I love everything about it. I love working with my hands. I love making things.
Yeah. It's an aspect of film that's not really spotlit at all. You hear of like, oh, producer, director, writer, like that's what it's like to work in Hollywood,
Right. Those are the ones everybody hits on. They kind of gloss over art department, which is unfortunate because I think, at least for me, it's really interesting and it's got something new. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, I was just kind of in the right place at the right time. After several years and certain circumstances, I was bumped up into the role of prop master and the head of the art department at Home and Family.
Yeah.
So that's been, it's been very different and it's been a huge learning experience for me.
How long have you been in that role?
So I've been doing that since December of 2018.
Okay. How different is that? Like from prop, because you're still working in the art department, right? So
right. It's very different, right? Unfortunately, I don't get to be as hands-on. I'm talking with all the producers constantly. I'm sending emails all day long. I'm going to meetings that I don't necessarily want to be in.
Managerial then, huh?
Yes, very much so. Our department now has 8 people. My job is now to kind of delegate the work and make sure it all gets done.
So is it an actual office job? Are you on set?
That kind of hits on one of the weird quirks about our show. We're a 2-hour show, talk show mainly, but intercut with that, we've got cooking segments and DIY segments and everything from fashion to remodeling your house. Our set is designed to look like an everyday house. If you pass it on the street, it looks like a house. And we move throughout the different rooms according to what the content is. We've got several different locations where we can shoot interviews, but if we're doing cooking, it's either in the kitchen or maybe in the backyard on a grill or whatever. With that being said, kind of the hub for art department is in the garage. That's where we store all our stuff, all our tools. That's where our home base is, and that's basically my office.
Nice.
There's a big table in there that's always covered with materials and like half-done projects. And then like my computer is also in there, and like I meet producers in there.
That's awesome.
So it's a very unique kind of work setting, but I much prefer that to an office. So
I mean, it's probably the best of both worlds too. You did mention before that it was a full-time job. You know, there are a lot of these gigs that are just that. They're gig workers. Is it like officially a full-time job?
Oh yeah. Our show shoots approximately 48 weeks out of the year.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We do normally take about a 1-month hiatus around August. Out of that month, my team generally only has about a couple weeks off because, we kind of stay later. We come back earlier to kind of freshen up the set and to do a lot of the things that it's difficult for us to do while there's a full crew of people working there. We just really take that time to have the set to ourselves to get a bunch of stuff done. So in a weird way, it is managerial. It is in an office, but that office happens to be a garage.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you have to have an office job, the best office job is the one that's out of the office and kind of where all the activity is.
Yeah, absolutely. That way I can keep an eye on like everything that's actually happening and the things that are being built. At the same time, I can be talking to people about next week and what we need for that.
For some reason, I was under the impression that it was like filmed with a live studio audience. Is that not?
Originally, yes, it was. But our show has evolved over the years. They used to bring in audience, like people could sign up, or they would just pull random people from the park that wanted to be in the audience. And they would shuttle them down to our set, and they would sit through a few segments, and then they'd take it back. Anyway, we don't do that anymore.
Were you there when they did do that? Because you were there for season 1, right?
Yeah, I saw plenty of that, yeah.
I want to say that you're the first guest that we've had that has been involved with a project that has a live studio audience. So I would love for you to compare and contrast what that experience is and how the audience kind of played into your day, if it did at all, if it had any effect whatsoever.
I think it goes back to what our show used to be. They wanted to feel like anybody could just stroll onto the set, and they didn't mind seeing people in the background, and they would cut to the audience to get like reaction shots. Whereas now they've really drawn back from kind of breaking that fourth wall. If there's something in the background that's not supposed to be there, they'll cut and they'll redo it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, we would shoot it as if it was a live show. We were shooting a 2-hour show with like 3-minute commercial breaks in between. And so during that 3 minutes, like all the cameras are like flying to the next room, and like me and my team are like moving furniture in and out of the way. And like, it was crazy. It was hectic. It takes a lot longer to shoot the 2-hour episode.
About how long?
I want to say about 4 hours.
Okay.
Which they're always trying to cut that time down. But that's the price you pay when you have a very specific way that you want everything to be.
Of course.
And you're less open to like people improvising.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned some of the aspects that are involved, DIY projects and cooking and crafts and sewing and decor and gardening and, fashion, pets, you name it. I'm guessing that you have like a core storage room of props, or Is there a bit of scrambling that has to be done for each unique guest or subject, or like, no scrambling? Do you have enough time to find these things?
There's a huge spectrum and it's all across the board, really. When it comes to figuring out and acquiring props that are needed, I'll sit down with the producers and map out like, okay, this is your segment for next week. Like, what do you need for this? And like, what's needed from my department? And then once we have everything kind of figured out, then I start going through, okay, do we need to purchase? Or do we need to rent from prop houses around the area? Or is this something that we're going to be designing and building here? Basically, all of the DIY projects are built there. So we do have a storage room. It's not nearly as big as we would like it to be, which means we can only hold on to so much stuff.
It's a lot of turnover.
There is a lot of turnover, and it's all a guessing game as to like, are we going to need this in the future? How easily could we reacquire it if we need to just let it go right now for the sake of space?
Yeah.
I'm always playing that game, trying to figure out what do we need to hold on to? What can we get rid of?
Is that your buffer time, just 1 week, or do you shoot ahead even more?
My goal is to be roughly 2 weeks out and at least starting to figure out what's needed 2 weeks out. Some things can be gotten the day before, but if I need like these 15 specific Christmas trees by this date, well, then I need to order them right now or they're not going to be here on time. All right. So that's the other thing. I'm looking at every single segment and kind of putting that in order of importance and time management to gauge when I need to be getting that stuff.
Nice. So you haven't been in production for the quarantine, I'm guessing.
No, our show is completely shut down at the moment. I know they've been trying to do some social media content to keep viewers somewhat active, but as far as a regular show, it's not active right now.
Have you been involved with that? Like, how has your job pivoted?
It's come to a complete stop, honestly. Beyond like some of the on-air talent, nobody is working right now at Home and Family.
Yeah. I'm curious, are you part of a union? Are you okay? Are you taken care of, kind of thing?
Our show is non-union. I'm not a part of the union.
Okay.
I think that would kind of bar me from working there if I were to join.
Oh, okay. I got you. This has kind of screeched everything to a halt for so many day workers, gig workers, all that stuff, especially if they're not in the union. How have you been able to sustain yourself in the meantime?
In March, they were like, okay, we're taking 2 weeks. We're going to regroup after 2 weeks and just see what happens. Of course, that went into an indefinite break. So right now I'm on unemployment. I'm pretty sure most of the crew is.
Has that come through for you?
It has.
Okay.
Honestly, in my experience, it was quite painless and it showed up.
No, that's really good. So have you heard any kind of date being knocked around for when you might be potentially going back?
I have not, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to really talk about that. But
Got it. Right now, there is a lot of white paper coming across the desks on studios, from unions. You have the Yahtzee, you have the document that just came out with the guidelines, and they're already starting to cause a little bit of friction between all of those places, saying, all right, no, shorter work days. Like, you can't skimp on the amount of crew that you have. That's dangerous. Or no, we have to have smaller crews. Do you see yourself kind of getting wrapped up into that, where you will see your job possibly suffering or being affected by that?
I think our show will be affected greatly by whatever guidelines end up being required. On any given day. We have just a ton of people on set. We've got trailers full of producers and crew. And if you even start talking about social distancing and like anything like that, logistically, it just becomes a nightmare. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like when we do return, but I think it will be vastly different from what it was. I really hope it does not mean cutting crew. or cutting hours or anything like that, because it's just the nature of our show. Like, we pump out a lot of content in very little time. We're shooting every single day. To try to cut back in any area it would have a major effect on the overall content.
Of course. I'm sure that it would affect a lot of your budget as well.
Yeah, it definitely would.
Coronavirus is only one part of the change that's kind of been looming on the horizon. It's been a lot of the streaming services that are kind of infiltrating the market right now. Has your particular landscape changed?
Our show hasn't really changed in that way, whether for better or worse. I feel like there maybe should be some steps taken towards kind of figuring out how to transition into that arena, because that is the direction that everything's going. And so, a cable daytime show, I don't know what the future of that really looks like.
Yeah, I was curious how that was holding up, because I don't know very many people off the top of my head that still have cable.
Right. They're out there. Our show, it does have a really strong viewership, but yeah, in an age where everything is going towards streaming, it's not going to be the case forever.
Okay, so we actually have some listener questions from our Insta and Facebook stories and on Twitter. Shameless plug, if you want to ask your questions to future guests, our handle on Insta and Twitter is Collab Inc. Podcast. So, all right, favorite places to find props?
There are many different prop houses here in LA.
Yeah.
And if you ever get the chance to visit any of them, I really encourage that you do that, because it's just so cool. Like, even to this day.
To buy or to rent?
Generally to rent. Can purchase things from prop houses, but it ends up being very expensive. But they just have everything you could possibly imagine, right? And they've got different versions. And if, say, you need like a typewriter from the 1940s, well, then they can point you to the aisle of typewriters, and they can point you to the section of those that are from the 1940s.
Please tell me you're talking about History for Hire. Have you rented from them before?
I have not.
They're fantastic. For the Bonhoeffer film that we had done, for the narrative sequences, we had to, of course, dress the set for, 1940s, but specifically British. And so we go into History for Hire. First of all, they have, it's kind of like the scanner gun, like if you were to go on a wedding registry, so everything has a barcode.
Yeah. So
you go and you just you scan the things that you want and it comes out on that list. That's super cool. They had the exact same thing where it's just like, here's our aisle of telephones. These are the 1940s or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, we specifically needed a mic. It was a recording studio. So they're just like, this is that era. And then these are the British ones.
Yeah, no, it's insane. And it blows me away, just like how everything, even the stuff that is recreated or like a replica, it's just so detailed. And if you need like a foam version of whatever weapon, like they have that. Like if you need a display case full of like fake food products that look real, like they have that. Prop Heaven is a really good one.
Do they work more for, for instance, that aisle of food that might be needed? Do they work more with like kind of an in-house design team? Yeah,
I don't really know how the houses like acquire all of their props. Honestly, I don't know.
But what's awesome is that you get them. You get the stuff.
Yeah, it's all available, and it's available to even like student filmmakers.
Oh, that's
like
amazing.
You can make deals with these houses and they will rent out their props to you.
That's amazing. Do you have to have kind of a like a minimum budget, or?
Again, I haven't rented to that or from them as a student.
As a studio, I'm guessing that you guys have to have like, the proof of insurance kind of policy type of thing.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah. We do. We have all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We set up accounts with all the different prop houses.
That makes sense. So do you, so you rent props, do you make any?
Yes. We used to kind of make more. Our show used to have like games that we would play. And so they'd be like, okay, like we're going to do an obstacle course. And like at the end, you need to get like a bucket of slime dumped on you. So like we would like rig all this stuff and like today we're turning our backyard into a giant Angry Birds game. So
It's
we would make these
amazing.
like giant slingshots with, like these birds and like towers of boxes that they would have to knock down.
So over the course of a week, you're able to put all of that kind of stuff together. What does that process look like when like making props?
I figure out what's needed, and then I kind of look at the overall schedule of what's going on. And then as time pops up, I will grab like one or both of my builders and I'll walk them through like, this is what needs to happen. And then typically I'll like let them run with it, and I'll check in with them as I'm running around, like talking to other producers. I'll come and check in with the progress. And if they have questions about the next step, they'll come to me, and we just keep doing that until that's done. And then we move on to the next thing.
Is there like a secret club of art department that you get to be a part of when you're part of this kind of thing? Like people who might work art department in narrative projects, or like, oh yeah, in the lot down the way, or
I can't say that I'm a part of any secret art club. No, there is a bar in NoHo somewhere that is actually known for it kind of being like an art department hangout.
okay.
I've wandered through there. As far as interaction with kind of the people working around us, we don't have a ton of it. Like we show up, we have long days at Home and Family, and we're kind of on the back side of the back lot. There's the main side with like all the office buildings and like commissary and all of that. But if you want to get to our set, you have to go basically to the other end, past the New York sets, and like you start working your way through the Old West set. And our house is kind of like right between Old West and Old Europe.
Where are you in relation to Hill Valley?
Like the main square.
Yeah.
Like,
just where the clock tower was. I was just curious.
Yeah. You can walk there within like probably like 3 minutes. You can be there just walking.
That's so stinking awesome. Ugh. All right. So within this, I mean, I didn't know if you knew very many other people in art departments for like narratives, but one of the questions was, have you worked on many narrative projects? And if so, how much collaboration is there when going through the script and identifying key pieces?
Unfortunately, I have not worked narrative hardly at all. I had, I was an art department PA on a very short project when I first moved out here. Incredibly stressful. They had me like running around the Venice boardwalk looking for like a wallet with a chain on it. And like nobody sells those anymore. Like, anyway, super stressful, but fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, unfortunately, I've basically my whole career out here in LA has been on this show, this non-scripted show.
Yeah.
So I can't really answer that.
No worries. I still remember I had to find a white doctor's coat. And I'm driving like this 15 passenger van, and I have no idea. Like, first of all, like I don't know in LA, the parking situation is just a fun gamut in and of itself. So like double parking freaked me out at first. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get towed away. Somebody's going to smash into me or something. And I had to find this white doctor's coat, and I ended up going into some like X-ray tech office, and they had one on a dummy in the back in a drawer. It was just like, yeah, we don't wear those anymore.
Wow.
So I brought back like this dirty thing from the back of a drawer. I'm like, I promise I'm going to bring it back. I promise. Anyway.
Nice, but you found it.
It's the
Did
most
they use
random
it?
thing. Yeah, they ended up using it. There was like a huge stain on the front that they had to like put some pens over or something like that. So they couldn't see the stain. But yeah, they ended up using it. So.
No, that's great. You'd be surprised like how many like really just terrible props or wardrobe like get shot on camera and they look fine. Like like in real life, they look terrible, but if you do it right, you can shoot them all right. You know.
Well, how do you do it right?
I guess being very aware of, like you said, where the bad parts are, and then doing your best to kind of hide them. You know, like we are also kind of in charge of the overall set and how it looks, right? So we changed the set decor to match the season that we're in.
Uh-huh.
Hallmark, they don't have like 4 seasons, they have like 10 seasons.
Okay.
So from Christmas, we go into like Winterfest and then Valentine's and Spring Fever and June weddings and all of this stuff.
Wow.
So we're continually, apart from our regular duties, we're coming up with what is the set going to look like? What do we need to gather for that? And then there is like last minute, like, oh my goodness, that doesn't look so good. Like throw a flower pot in front of it or something, you know. Ferns and flower pots will save you, you know, so many times as a set dresser.
Awesome. So it is a talk show. You must see a lot of fantastic guests coming through, guests, celebrities, what have you. Who's been your favorite?
Favorites. Let's see. We had Colin Mockery. I don't know if you ever watched, like, Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, wait. Yes, I have.
You know, I watched him growing up, him and Ryan Stiles, and like to see him like actually on our show.
Yeah.
Really cool. People like Penn and Teller. Danny Trejo is super nice guy. John Voight was really awesome. I mean, there's been so many. I never for 1 second thought I would be seeing this person like in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like John Rhys Davies, super nice
Just
guy.
like legendary.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, I don't know, by now you've probably gotten the LA chill. I was never able to get that. If ever I saw a famous person, I was just like, I couldn't keep my chill.
I'm not one to like rush them and try to take a picture with them.
No.
And I might not get excited about the same people that other people get excited about, but I definitely do have that fanboy mentality hit me every now and then, you know.
Yeah. So, all right. A lot of our audience members are newcomers. So what would you say to them, especially in this kind of landscape right now? What would be the best way for them to position themselves?
I mean, I have no idea where things are going right now. And I don't know what things are going to look like when we kind of get out of all of this. But I'd say a lot of this is going to be common sense, but work as hard as you possibly can. Do the very best job that you can. Be kind. Like, just be a nice person and be respectful. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. But if you're nice and you work hard, eventually, like, somebody is going to notice. Not everybody out there is giving it 100 or 110%. And so if you are, you're naturally going to kind of rise to the top. And so when somebody does give you that chance, you grab hold of it and use it for all it's worth.
What were some of the skills that you had to learn in your job?
There's been a lot of like tools that I've had to learn that I've never used before. As far as the job I'm doing now, it's really kind of forced me to have interactions with people that I wouldn't normally have. Like, I'm not an outgoing person. I'm not a social butterfly. Public speaking is the worst. I've had to learn, you know, how to interact and how to work with all of these people and make sure everything's getting done.
Yeah.
Even when it's maybe not what I would generally want to be doing in that given moment. Something else is that you don't know where life is going to take you. Even if you have a clear goal in mind, your life could take weird, twisty turns. And I would encourage people to be open to opportunities that are presented to them, even if it's not necessarily what you think you want.
Yeah. I know of a lot of people who particularly are just graduating. First of all, they're not even aware of these types of jobs that are out there. When it comes down to it, you know, like doing something that you love and doing it in a field that you're just like, you know what, actually, like this turned out differently than I thought it was going to, but I'm kind of loving life. I kind of like it.
Yeah. And I mean, people should really look hard for their strengths, you know, in whatever field you're working in, like figure out what your strengths are and gravitate towards that and just make the most of it that you can, even if it's something completely different than you thought it was.
We really appreciate your insight, a little bit of a glimpse into your world.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to provide whatever little insight I can.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this interview, follow us right here and check out more episodes at media.collabinc.org, as well as that feedback survey where you'll be entered to win a $25 Amazon gift card. If you want to ask your questions to future guests, our handle on Insta and Twitter is Collab Inc. Podcast. Cory, thanks so much again for your time. Be well and God bless. We'll see you next time on There to Hear.